that we could have more money. The country could have earned more money from bauxite to spend in the country because most of the profits were going overseas anyway. In retaliation, the bauxite companies began producing less. And they did everything they could to sabotage the Manley government.
Bless up my people. Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Isabel Rose. Thanks to all the new subscribers. Thanks to the returning subscribers. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notification bell on. Put it on all so you won't miss an upload from me. On the road to 20k. Help me to get there, my people. So in this video, my people, the civil society advocate Horace Levy challenges Nadine Spence on her argument as it pertains to billions being spent on social interventions. As well as, my people, the Supreme Court grants injunction to Jamaica Labour Party councillor, and a little history as it pertains to the whole Michael Manley era and what went down between him and the CIA. Stay tuned for the details at hand of this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Some people, based on a poll finding that I spoke about on the channel in a previous video, and that link I got in the description so you can refresh your memory with it. But Dr. Nadine Spence came out and was speaking on the whole more than half of Jamaica not being safe and the whole crime and violence that has spiraled out of control. And she spoke about, re-socializing the family, so to speak. And many of us would agree with that aspect of it. However, I'm not going to play the whole clip now. You can go back and watch that video there on the channel. Right? But this specific part where she said billions have been spent on social intervention didn't sit well with civil society advocate Horace Levy, who is also urging the government to employ wider use of social intervention. But he challenges the part where he says the administration proclaimed to have spent billion and that they have created more social intervention programs than any other administration in the history of Jamaica. Mr. Levy now buy that, and a whole heap of other persons are not buying that. Some would have argued too that in the Michael Manley era, he provided more social interventions for people in the history of Jamaica's politics. But I want to hear first or refresh your memory of what Nadine Spence said, and then we drop in Mr. Levy's part right after, so you can hear what him have to say.
I think anybody over 12 in Jamaica now, we just have to say, okay, what do we do with those people? But then we can start with the new set of Jamaicans who were born last year, perhaps the year before, and who will be born this year, and be decisive about who we want them to be and the kind of people we want to populate this country, the kind of citizens we want. To be fair, what the Minister of National Security had said is that we've invested billions of dollars in social intervention programs, on top of what the state naturally through its apparatus, through the SPC, the JCDC, and a host of other state agencies offer. So we invested billions of dollars in those programs, and we are not seeing the returns. And so I remember the conversations we had at the CMOC is that we have to find a way to measure the investment in social intervention programs so that we can understand how each intervention and the money spent to finance these interventions result in the kinds of impact that we want to see.
The gangs definitely are a problem. There's no question about it. I mean, the murders they commit, the lives they take, create mayhem for communities and very painful for people in these communities. But these murders and the gangs are themselves symptoms of a deeper problem. And that deeper problem is the deprivation of communities. That's a bit of a myth that the billions have been spent. They haven't. Some has been spent, yes. But my point is, it's been spent in the wrong way. The kind of social intervention that's needed is not the kind that has been practiced. A lot of youth are not going to school. We're talking about the kind of schooling they endure, the family life they have, which is not there. The lack of opportunities for young people, how they're treated by police. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about. Some of those have been dealt with to some extent, but not in the depth or the extent or in the way that they need to be dealt. But the medium to long term has to be tackled now. Community policing, providing employment, rebuilding the community spirit, and so on.
A quick update as well on the Jamaica Labour Party Councillor for the St. Margaret's Bay Division, Mr. Stephen Williams, who, had filed some court order in order to stop the whole meeting/selection of another chairman for that division, when in truth and in fact he said that he was appointed or given the position from last year in September. So that whole meeting/selection was supposed to take place on the 4th, and he had filed hoping that he would have gotten a quick response, an expedited response from the judge, in which he did. So Justice Sonia Bertram Linton has granted an injunction barring the executive of the ruling Jamaica Labour Party from going forward with meeting to select a chairman for the St. Margaret's Bay Division in Portland. The application was made in chambers by attorney at law Hugh Wildman, who was representing Mr. Stephen Williams, that's the JLP councillor, and the lawyer argued that under the Jamaica Labour Party constitution, William was properly confirmed in September 2023 at a caretaker candidate meeting in Old Harbour to be the chairman of that division. Justice Bertram granted them a 28-day injunction which will remain in effect until the parties return to court. The respondents in the matter were Webster, Horace Chang, and Robert Montague. So you can go watch that video on the channel so you can get a better understanding. But the court have ruled, and for right now, Mr. Stephen Williams is the victor of that court order. Moving right along, my people, we have a young lady here who's dropping some history as it pertains to, Jamaican politics, and in particular, in the Michael Manley era and what happened with, guns, poison, assassination, and the CIA in Jamaica in that time of around the 1970s up to 1980s thereabout. And for my people them were in a them age group who experience them area, I want to know if make me know in the comment section if what she say them things are actually go on. Because as me say, I'm not from the era, me can just go by hearsay, and in this case, the majority would have ruled if what she's saying, I saw it go.
If you grew up in Jamaica in the 80s and 90s, you might have heard stories about the CIA's involvement in Jamaican politics and Siaga's alliances with the US government to topple Manley's administration. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to paraphrase and leave out a lot of the details. But basically, Michael Manley had an agenda for democratic socialism. And a big part of his agenda was that he wanted to nationalize particularly the bauxite companies that were, at the time when he took over in 72, mainly foreign owned. Manley's plan included making education more accessible, making land and housing more accessible, and making social services available to the masses of the people to uplift the mainly poor working class Jamaicans. Now, Manley intended to pay for all this with the implementation of a large tax, large enough, right, on the bauxite industry so that the government would earn more from this industry and that we could have more money. The country could earn more money from bauxite to spend in the country because most of the profits were going overseas anyway. In retaliation, the bauxite companies began producing less, and they did everything they could to sabotage the Manley government. Under democratic socialism, Manley government imposed a bauxite production tax on the aluminum companies, raised taxes, and nationalized a number of foreign-owned enterprises against intense resistance from the multinational corporations, the local capitalist class, the US, and other Western governments. There was massive backlash from the elite class. They started to move their money overseas out of the country, starving the Manley government of much needed foreign capital that they needed to buy, the goods and services from abroad that people depended on. Hence some of the shortages that people experienced at that time. Historians had doubt that it would succeed, and one said, for the criticism leveled at it by the United States, the Manley government was never a radical government with a plan for a substantial restructuring of the economy. The PNP had not formulated an overall plan to mobilize domestic agriculture and industrial workers. So there was doubt that in the long run, it really would have worked anyway. He really needed to incorporate the stakeholders a bit more than the way he was going about it. But nevertheless, it rattled the neighbors up north. Manley's pronouncements panicked the local capitalists and the upper class, who became convinced that the PNP government was moving Jamaica towards communism and that their businesses and properties would be confiscated. They also incurred the wrath of the US, whose response to the Manley regime's new posture was a sustained effort to destabilize Jamaica's economy. The United States government portrayed Jamaica as a pawn of Cuba and the Soviet Union, just as it did with Grenada before the invasion, and vowed to get rid of the Manley socialist regime at any cost. Kissinger had arrived in Jamaica in December 1975 to suggest to Manley that he change his policies or else US-Jamaican relations would be reviewed. So several years into Manley's administration, the economic aid dried up and the investments dried up and the tourism had slowed. The upper class had removed most of their money from the economy. Some had fled. The destabilization efforts were really at their peak. In 1977, two investigative reporters from Penthouse had gotten information from American intelligence sources about the destabilization program that was drawn up by the CIA. As quoted in Blum's book, politics in Jamaica had long been spiced with strong-arm tactics, but this now intensified in both frequency and deadlines, and in the use of arson, bombing, and assassination. The CIA quickly sought to organize and expand the violence. Shipments of guns and sophisticated communications equipment began to be smuggled into the island. In one shipment alone, which was grabbed by Manley's security forces, there were 500 submachine guns. Another section said a cargo of flour brought to Jamaica on a German ship, the Heidelberg, was discovered to have been contaminated with an insecticide which had been banned from Jamaica for many years. Much of the flour had already been sold, and about 17 people died from it in December 1975 and January 1976. Later in the year, in October, a large shipment of rice from Costa Rica arrived to relieve a rice shortage Jamaicans had been suffering through for months. This too was found to be contaminated by poison and had to be destroyed. The two incidents are reminiscent of the contaminations of sugar carried out by the CIA against Cuba. In another section, it says, mobilization of the middle class into CIA-created anti-government organizations to carry out well-publicized demonstrations. Groups with names such as Silent Majority and Christian Women Agitators for Truth were formed, the latter attacking those who criticized the United States and the CIA. With liberal bribes, the CIA turned many security personnel into paid informants for the agency. Several officers were part of a plot to assassinate Manley in July. One of at least 3 such attempts which the CIA was directly involved in. Another in September employed Cuban exiles. The third turned to Jamaican gunmen to do the job. The last was in December, a final act of desperation on election night. All 3 attempts failed. Not even a shot was fired, and Manley easily won re-election. This was in 1976, I believe. During the campaign, CIA officer James Holt was accused of contriving a plot to turn the military against Manley's People's National Party. According to the accusation, a tape of a PNP youth rally was spliced with a message purporting to be from Fidel Castro, urging young people to rise up in armed struggle against the police and the army. The tape was supposed to fall into the hands of the military and cause dissension. Propagandists arrived from the United States as well. Evangelists and faith healers came down to set up their tents and preach against communism and the government to the highly religious population. Manley was defeated for re-election in October 1980, due primarily to a continuing deterioration in the standard of living of the masses of the people. While recognizing the importance of this factor, the former Prime Minister attributed his defeat also to propaganda and finely calculated violence, the latter having persisted throughout his second term, being particularly heavy during the election year when 800 people lost their lives in political violence. I cannot begin to describe how fascinating all this was to read. Rose's book details has a lot of details about Manley's administration and how the different programs, how he went about them. I mean, I just gave you a little snapshot, but really it is extensive, very detailed about, you know, the plans that he had, the different steps that he took to try to implement them, and just how he met opposition all along the way. And then Bloom's book, the section on the CIA intervention in Jamaica is detailed enough, but it actually has a long list of US-led interventions over the past 4 or 5 decades. Talk about Grenada, talk about Guyana, and Cuba, and Haiti. And that's why history is so important. It's so important for us to not just understand, you know, what our leaders, both past and present, you know, have put out there on the table, but that in fact we are not as independent as we think, right?
So now have it, my people. All of these details and information unfolded in the video. I want to run out in the comment section, give me an honest opinion upon all that was said, and make me know what you think, and make me know if this young lady is indeed, you know, spitting facts as it pertains to the 1970s/80s era. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Go over to my other platform, Instagram and Facebook, and follow me over there at Anissa Bell Rose. Check out the YouTube store, make a purchase, it goes in support of the channel. Check out the YouTube membership, you get a lot of benefits by becoming a member. We do notifications, shout out in each and every video to be a part of that. all you have to do is be the first to like, comment, and subscribe, and you'll be featured in the following video to come. This notification shout out goes to Pat W, big up yourself, Carl Stewart, big up yourself, as well as John Gotti 9783. Thanks for the continued support on the channel from each and every subscriber. New viewers, come on board, journey with me, join the family, like up the videos, share out the videos, subscribe to the channel, support the ABR movement on the road to 20k. Don't forget, my people, that there's a GoFundMe link in support of my father. May I ask for continued support on it. Share it out. You know, a little donation go a far way if we can get $1 from each person who is subscribed to the channel and who might be new coming across the whole GoFundMe aspect of it. You know, he has liver disease and we are trying as much as possible to help him in every way. Can't do it alone as it's a very costly treatment, and so may I ask for support on that one. If I even want to share out the link of the GoFundMe, if it's even $1 or whatever is laid on your heart to donate to the cause, it's a very important cause and a life we are see over that at all times. So once you can donate, once you can share out the link, it's greatly appreciated. Thanks in advance for all the continued support on the channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Big up on yourself. Love you.